point where we're now about to take the FNA. So today we're hoping to get through taking an FNA in a role play setting and booking the next appointment, the last appointment, which is step 5. If we can get through step 5, we'll do it today. Okay. If not, that'll be next week. All right. So I'm going to bring up Kason and Sarah. Are they on again? Hopefully they're on. I want my same trainees.
Yeah, they are.
Let's highlight them. There they are. Okay. And I'm just going to go back to how I ended last week where I closed for the FNA so that you guys can see that one more time. Let's see. Okay. So this is where we ended, remember? And I went through Finn. I went through how every family deserves to know their Finn, very crusade. You know, we help middle America. I went through the 3 ways we build wealth, and that's time and rate of return, like rule of 72. And then, of course, with higher returns comes higher what? Higher risk. We talked about addressing risk and how index accounts only go forward. They never go backwards. And then I went through, now the main thing that we also have to worry about is taxation. There's taxable, tax deferred, and tax free. Which one's best, sounds best so far? They said tax free. I said, of course that sounds. And then I went through explaining how all of those things worked. And at the end of that tax explanation, I don't need to repeat it because I did it last week. Go back and watch it if you missed it. But I said, okay. And so the only things that are really tax exempt are, Roth IRAs, and then IULs, VULs, things like that, and muni bonds, but those things don't really have high returns for the long term, okay, for the long-term accounts. So we can teach you about all these things, but Sarah, Kason, let me just ask you a question. If I were to show you, I'm just going to go through the close again, you guys, right now, okay? So I want you guys to get that so you can see me going into the FNA. Okay, so Sarah, Kason, if I were to show you a way where you could get the high returns and never have to worry about loss, that you have a guarantee on your money, you never have to worry about loss, but also you don't pay a dime in taxes. How many people do you know, guys, that would be interested in something like that?
Everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask you, where do you usually put your money? In taxable, tax deferred, tax free? Where do you usually put your money?
Taxable.
Yeah, taxable, and then just sitting in the bank.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're not alone. Most Americans are in the same boat. Most Americans start this way and work that way, where the rich start this way, kind of work that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can show you, some of these different things. Let me take this down real quick. Out of all the things that we talked about so far, what kind of stood out the most? What are you most concerned with your financial situation?
Yeah, definitely the growth of our money and just kind of having a plan.
And also having protection too, just in case if something happens to me or Sarah, the family's taken care of.
Okay. Okay. All right. And you said growth. So meaning for like your financial goals or for retirement, or what exactly is like the most important?
Yeah, sending our money out and having it come back with more money.
Okay. How to get your money or need more money. Okay, perfect. So what I'll do is I'll kind of gather some information and go back and do my homework and then come back with kind of a plan, like option A, option B, option C. C kind of being everything you have now, nothing changing, but at least you'll know your FIN number, you'll know, how to get out of debt or whatever it is that's concerning you, and nail down how much protection you actually need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So Sarah, actually I'll start with Kason. So how old are you, Kason?
Me, I am 36.
36. Okay. And Sarah, how old are you?
42.
42. Okay. And then I know you have the baby. How old is she?
So she's a year and a half.
My
And
gosh.
then we have a
This is big.
10-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Okay. What's your 10-year-old's name?
Rhett, R-H-E-T-T.
R-H-E-T-T. And he's 10.
Yep.
And then you have a 12-year-old?
Yes, Dakota.
Is that a boy or girl?
Girl.
Okay, that's what I thought. It can go both ways though, right, Dakota?
Yeah, totally.
And Dakota's 12.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay, so let's just talk about some of your goals. So what are some of your like short-term goals? Like emergency fund, debt. I know protection. I mean, protection is typically something that's immediate, obviously, making sure that you have the right life insurance. But what are some of your other short-term goals?
Get out of debt, I'd say, and just get more. Yeah, out of debt. That's my biggest thing. I hate debt. So if we can get rid of that, I'm happy.
Me too.
And then an emergency fund to keep from going into debt.
Okay. All right. How about do you have any like midterm goals, maybe the next 3 to 7 years?
I want to into a different house, a little bit bigger to kind of fit the family. Since the little girl came in, the house has gone a little bit smaller.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So a
A
bigger
lot
home.
smaller.
All right. Anything else like major vacations or anything like that?
Yeah, always. Yeah, be able to, continue going on trips and enjoying life and investing in our future.
Okay.
And also get some horses too.
Horses.
Yeah, be great.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And then long term, so building wealth is kind of your biggest goal here.
Yeah, freedom, like time and financial freedom.
Freedom. That's Israel too.
Okay. So building wealth. What about, do you have any other major things like parents that maybe you might have to provide for or support
Yeah, definitely.
on both sides?
Well, one's actually taken care of now, so that's good.
So my mom,
So just her
Well,
mom for now, but I think
100% be taking care of my mom.
Do you have
Every-
a time frame
every-
that you think that might need to happen?
Yeah, within the next 5 years, probably.
Oh, okay. So that's kind of midterm there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. College education, those things important?
No.
No.
Well, not college education, but more just setting up our kids forever, right? We just we want to, it's so funny to get emotional on it. Like we always talk to clients about it. It's so funny getting emotional about it here. I don't want my kids to experience what I have my whole life with money. Like I want every decision that we make and they make to be based on our truth and not finances. I want to travel the world. I want to have a foundation that gives back millions of dollars every single year. I just want to pour back in to communities and people doing good all over the world with our kids, like forever, as big as we want to. And then experiences are number one. Like we've always had so many experiences, but it's been at the detriment of our future. And
your savings and stuff.
We just want to, we've lived it up, but we want to be able to do that and be secure and just live the life we want to live.
Okay. So you have a lot of legacy and contribution goals, but you also want to kind of have like that that for your kids be able to leave an inheritance, but more importantly, even while you're alive, be able to have experiences, but also teach them foundational stuff about money.
That's right.
And give them a choice too, as well, instead of having to, work for a job and have to do it. It'd be nice for them to actually have a decision on what they want to do, and
I love that. Okay.
Not have to.
Yeah, I feel a
lives.
lot of the same thing with my kids. And a lot of times, when you're saving for college, maybe they do. I have one that knows he wants to go to college and he knows exactly what he wants to do. And then I have others that have no clue still. Well, I have a 19-year-old that still says not 100% sure, right? And but like I said, when they turn 18, I don't want it to be locked up just for college money. And I want, to be able to have them have, like you said, be able to pursue dreams or it could even just be paying for weddings and those types of things, All right. So now, Kason, you're in construction, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So construction, how long have you been doing that?
Since I was 14.
Wow. Okay. And Mike and Sarah said maybe that you were looking to transition out of that, maybe be able to have a different style, different business.
Yeah, I'd love to transition out of it just so I can be home more. I know I'm gone probably about 4 to 5 days out of the week every single week.
Oh
So
my gosh.
to
Okay.
to be able to spend more time with my family, that's going to be a win-win for me and
Okay.
be able to make good money too. So
So if you were able to make the same money but have control of your time and spend like be able to be with your family more, that would be something that you're interested in.
yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. And then Sarah, what you have your own business, right?
Yeah, so I have both. So I have a salaried position as a COO of a natural health pharmacy.
Okay.
And then we have a coaching business as well.
Okay. So let's go through kind of like some of this. So what is your income, Jason? What's your annual salary?
I make anywhere from 90,000 to 110, depending on
Okay.
jobs and everything.
Got it. Yeah. Varies monthly.
Mhm.
What's your average take home?
My average take home is about uh 14 yeah, 12,000 a week probably is my average. So not 12,000 to 1,200 a week is
1,200 a
my
week.
average. And then sometimes if I get a job that pays more, and that's where it goes up to say 16 or 18.
Okay. Okay. And then how about you, Sarah? How much do you get from your job?
So salary of 60,000 a year.
Okay.
And then coaching, man, it's been so long, I've blocked it all out. Coaching is probably no, I had each client was, how many clients did I have? We'll say like another 70,000 a year, maybe.
Okay. So what do you suppose your average take home is? Does that vary a lot because of the coaching?
It varies a lot. Yeah. So different retreats might be like a mass amount 1 month. I guess it would have been more than that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been just coaching clients. So like we might bring a group somewhere and get a
Yeah.
$20,000 paycheck. So it's just super variable per
How
month.
about your job? How much is your take home there?
So with Fusion.
I don't remember. We'll call it, I've blocked out. We'll call it 1,600 2,200 every 2 weeks.
Okay, you get paid every 2 weeks. Okay. Okay. And then the 70,000 is before all your expenses, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. And taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of taxes.
Okay. And what do you suppose, like, would you have a lot of expenses with it or no? Those trips and retreats?
Yeah, there's a lot of expenses for sure on like some of the bigger stuff, retreats and trips, major expenses, but then like daily coaching and stuff. Zoom.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So do you think that you're taking home about 3,000 or after all your expenses or less?
From just coaching, yeah, I had to be more than that. We'll call it 6,000 per month.
That's what I thought, but
after
minus your
everything.
taxes ish. I'm trying to, yeah, because you're
Yeah.
okay. So I'm gonna say about 4,100
Yep.
to be safe. Okay. All right. Anywhere else you're getting any type of income from, like maybe military or alimonies or just anything that you
Nope,
can think
that's
of
it.
from rental properties or just anything? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And what are your expenses?
A lot of expenses. So
Do you have a mortgage?
mortgage of 1,300. Utilities probably averaging of
How much do you owe on the
300.
mortgage?
We owe 215,000.
Okay. All right. And you said so, okay, so no rent, you have your mortgage. You have car payments?
Yeah.
So we have my truck that is $1,400 a month. And then every 6 months, it's about 900 for insurance.
Okay. Okay. Every 6 months.
Yeah.
All right. And then how about
And then
like
fuel.
gas and maintenance of the vehicles? Yeah.
So
Well,
both of ours.
Well, my company pay, or I should say the company that I work with pays for my truck fuel. So we,
So
Okay.
mine's
Nice.
probably $200 in fuel per month for me.
Okay. Perfect. Is the 1,300 including like your property taxes and stuff like that? Doesn't sound
Yeah.
like it. It is? Wow, that was a great mortgage. Okay.
I know, right?
Hi, baby. Hi. Haven't seen you in a while. You're getting so big. Okay. How about like gas, electric, phone, water?
So phone is probably 160 per month. That's with a device payment and 2 lines. We
That's your
have
cell? That's your cell or
yeah.
your home?
Cell phone. Yep. And
Okay.
then all utilities are something like in the few $100 range, couple $100 for electric. And we do have an HOA fee that takes care of water and trash and all that. And that's
Nice.
we'll call
How
it
much is the HOA?
140 per month.
140. How about cable and like
No
Direct
cable.
TV or those types of things?
Nope.
Nope. Internet, gym memberships.
Is internet is 75 a month. And gym membership, we can do that now, it doesn't matter. $50 a month.
Okay. All right. Any like how about entertainment, going out? But without the travel, but just food.
we like to, go to the driving range and play a little golf here and there.
Yeah, so entertainment maybe 300 a month. And then food is probably at least 1,500 per month.
And that includes groceries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. Anything else that you pay like for the kids, like education or sports or all that, dance and all that stuff?
It's probably a couple $100 a month.
All right. Now, how about like is there tithing, gifts, charity, anything like that? That's a regular expense or savings that you're actually saving now.
We're not saving anything. And
Nothing right
let's say for those others, let's say $50 a month.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that's a major expense that you do often?
Well, we
Other
like to
than
go-
debts and stuff.
We like to go Airbnb.
Yeah, lots of little trips and things like that. So
Right, the
that's
travel.
probably, yeah, some snowboarding and different things. It's probably another few $100 a month.
Okay. You said a few hundred?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Any like storage units or subscriptions like that are significant?
Well, we have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus.
Yeah, we'll call those maybe $50 a month. And then I have a health share account that I think for the baby and I is maybe like $350 per month. And then my vitamins and different stuff like that is probably like another 75.
Supplements.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, so we got 40. Okay. I'm just kind of taking notes here for you.
Okay.
Do you guys usually keep a budget? It sounds like you're kind of guessing, but no.
Not
Okay.
really. We just kind of we swing by the hip.
We're just always
Okay.
trying to make more money so that we can live the life we want to live. But
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
kind of up and down.
got it. Okay. All right. And then do you have health insurance, life insurance, stuff like that through work?
So
No.
that's that health share as far
For
as
you and the
health
baby,
stuff.
yeah.
And then life insurance, you had that little
I have $100,000 was it accidental death? I think it was, yeah, $100,000 accidental death.
Through work?
No, this is personal. I got it way back when I was like 25.
Okay. You got it. Okay. And how much do you pay for
And
that?
then how much do you pay for that?
$25 a month.
What? Really?
Yeah. I think it's a whole, I have to look at it. I don't really know too much about it. I
You're
got
not
it way
sure if
back.
it's a whole life
It
term?
might be a whole life, but I know it's has accidental death on it. I just have to look at it. I was 25 when I got it, and I thought I was getting a cash accumulation. I don't know if I even getting that. So.
Okay. Do you know what the provider was? Who, like, which company it's with?
It is Mutual of Omaha.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so probably a whole life with some AD&D attached to it, but we'll take a look at that and see if there's something of better value for the family. Okay. And then any other coverage for him or for you?
So I have one of those like terms through a credit union that's, I don't know, maybe $10 a month. And I think it gives me like 25,000 in coverage,
Okay. All right.
but I don't have anything else through work or anything there.
Okay. Do you know how long the term is?
I do not.
Okay. Sometimes it's like 20 years or 30 years or okay. But that we can get all that organized for you. All right. What about the debt? So I know about the auto loan, the mortgage, is the other debt student loans, credit cards? What is all that?
Yeah, so I have about 50,000 in student loans that is spread amongst like different loans, but the average is probably be like 6.5%, 7%, somewhere in there.
Okay. Now, are you
And-
paying on them now or is
Yeah,
it deferred?
it's $370 a month, I think is what I pay on those.
When will that be paid off? Do you know how long that's for?
Um,
Do you have a
When she's
schedule on it at all?
65.
yeah, but I think
Never.
like what, 45 years from now or something.
So 370, 6.5% you think is the average.
Yeah, I think it shows a payoff so far in the distance that I try not to look
And
at it.
you
and
have
just
a
make
credit
money.
union.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know on this debt stuff. How about the other stuff? Is it credit cards? I think, Kason, you mentioned you have some credit debt.
Yeah, I've definitely have credit debt. That's for sure.
Okay, so let's just go through that. So I'll just put credit card number one. Is it Visa, MasterCard?
Visa, Wells Fargo.
Okay. And how much do you owe on that?
15,000.
Okay. Do you know the interest rate on it?
Interest rate is 16%, I believe.
Okay. And how much do you normally pay on it?
I pay 250.
250. Okay.
Yeah,
Do
250
you-
a month.
So that's above the minimum, obviously.
Yes, I'm
okay.
trying to pay it down.
Okay. And then what other credit cards do you have?
And also I have another, because that first one's my business credit card. That's personal business. And then the other one's personal credit card, and that one is 9,000 and it has 10%.
Okay. And that's a Visa as well?
What's that?
That's a Visa as well?
Yes, it is. Wells Fargo Visa.
Wells Fargo. Okay. And how much do you usually pay on that one?
About the same, 250.
Okay. So as say come in, this is what's allocated to it. Not much of a plan, just to kind of just pay what you have a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really
Any
no
other
plan, just
any other
push
credit
it.
card, department store cards, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have a Spirit card.
Spirit.
And
like
that,
okay.
yeah, that has like we'll say 8,000 on it
Okay.
and payment of 250 per month.
Okay. And do you know the interest rate on that one?
20%.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's not my end.
Discover card. Right, that has a balance of like 10,000 and we'll call that one 27%.
Okay. And what do you,
Oh yeah,
do you know?
I do have a Best Buy card too as well. That one's at 3,000.
Okay. And Best Buy's probably up there too.
Oh, it's actually within the year, so it's 0% right now.
Nice.
So, but once it goes past that year, it's 20%.
Yeah. Do you think you'll have it paid off in time?
I'm pushing for it, but looking in the future, probably not.
How much do you pay on that one?
I pay $100.
Okay. And how much is on the
Next-
Discover? How much do you know about how much you pay on the Discover?
26.
Yeah, about
Oh, per month?
per month.
Um,
That's
$200.
Yeah, $200. Sounds about right.
Awesome. Okay, that's one tip on that Best Buy one. You want to just double check. So what happens sometimes when you have these 0% for a certain amount of time, if you don't pay it off, not only does the interest rate go up on the balance that you have, sometimes it can go up on the entire balance that you didn't
Okay.
pay, that you have been paying at 0%. So double check on that. And if so, you may want to move that balance or pay it off in time. So you would just take the 3,000 divided by, however many months you have, and can I allocate something to get that paid off? If that's your goal, to get it paid off before the interest rate goes up. If it just went up on the tiny bit that you have left of the 3,000, not as big of a deal. But sometimes that will happen on Best Buy, probably won't, but sometimes medical bills or, things that you're financing, if we don't get it paid off in time, then we don't just have a higher interest rate, we have to pay additional interest and stuff. So just double check on that if that's something that you want to do. Okay. Anything else on debt?
That sounds.
I don't
about
think
right.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. All right. Well, let's talk about the biggest goal you had, the wealth building, the savings. I'm going to pause right here, you guys. I want to show the team that's watching this. I'm literally just reading off the FNA. Okay. And I'm taking note on the FNA. I started off by saying, what do you want most, right? And they said wealth building and all this stuff. I went through, got this information. I will go back and get their date of birth. I think it's a little intrusive as my first question though. Okay. It's bad enough I'm already asking her, if I was a male, asking her age. Okay. So I may ask her date of birth if I'm a male asking a female. Do you see what I'm saying? But then I asked the kids, then I got their short-term, midterm, and long-term. Right? Then I went into their incomes and I went into their expenses, then I went to their insurance, then I went into their debt. Just wanted to show you guys so you see how easy this is. I'm literally just reading. Now we're getting into the savings, right? Okay. All right. So this is going to be the fun part. So have you guys talked about when you do want to retire? Do you have a goal of a day, age, or a certain, year that you want to retire?
I would like to retire at 65 if I can, but with construction,
65?
you don't really have retirement. You just got to
But
work.
you have a lot of
until
time.
you're
You're young. You guys are young. So, okay. So 65. How about you, Sarah? Did you guys talk about this type of stuff?
Yeah, we talk about a lot. So for me, I don't want to make another decision based on money within 5 years. And
Okay.
so that includes if I want to get up and go to work that day. So definitely not 65. So that would be 47. Probably
47.
won't retire. Definitely won't retire. But I want it to be optional.
Okay. So let's get on this real clear. So I have a lot of people say, when do you want to retire? And they say tomorrow, right? Right now. And then I have other people that say, well, I don't want to retire because I love what I do. Does it make sense? And so what this tool is going to do for you, this financial needs analysis is going to do for you, is going to figure out that FIN number. How much money do I need to have sitting in a pot that I can draw on so that I can choose, like you said, whether I have to work? Okay. So you may say at 47, I want to have freedom. I'm still going to have my business. Maybe you're still going to be coaching. Maybe you'll be doing something new because you love it. Does it make sense? But let's take out the business and that stuff aside, and we say now we're old and we can't work, right? At what age do I want to have that pot of money that I'm drawing on to retire? Besides what I'm doing, you know what I mean? So that if I don't have to work, I don't have to have that side business at McDonald's or at the In-N-Out drive through or at the, does that make sense? Or Walmart. Okay. So for this to calculate what you want to have in retirement, besides working, like let's say you're not working and you want to replace your income in 5 years, it's going to tell you to save a ton of money. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
so besides like the option to have freedom in your business, is 47 your, I'm not working anymore and my only source of income is this savings? Or is that a different age?
I mean, I would love it to be that big of an option. When I say optional, it's like
Yeah.
truly optional. But if I'm working past 55,
Okay.
I've really not done what I needed
Let's
to
do this.
in the
I'm going to
meantime.
put in 50. Okay.
Okay.
And what this will do, and I can also do 55 and I can do 47. And you can see kind of how much you need to save a month to get there. And you'll see the dramatic difference in, because of remember we talked about the rule of 72 and that compound interest and the time, right? The time value money. But I'll put in 50 to be like, this is going to be my source of income. I'm replacing my income. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, the bigger question, how much money do you want to have at retirement? So at 65, Kason, and at 50, how much do you want to have based on today's dollars? So this will calculate like all the tools I have. It's very advanced. It will calculate inflation. So don't worry about inflation, right? Because you'll need more, at 65 than you do now, Kason, to have the same lifestyle, right? But some people tell me, hey, Jamie, I'm going to be old. I don't need as much money as I make today. And then other, kids are moved out and house is paid off. But other people tell me, no, Jamie, I want to retire and I want to travel and I want to, some people say, I want to buy an RV and travel the, country. I don't know. But everybody's dreams are different. But my husband just said he wants a hot rod collection. Okay.
I can second that. It sounds nice.
So as far as what your guys' goals, based on what you're making today, right? Which is that 90,000 for you, Kason, and the, well, let's see. If we added your incomes, the 90,000 plus the 60,000 plus the coaching of 70,000, 220,000 combined. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that's about right.
And that's without, if you have good months, right? But that's the average of the business, the jobs. Okay. So 220,000 on that income. What do you think? What percentage of that do you think you need? More or less, about the same?
Oh, way more.
Yeah.
I want more than that per month.
So, but as far as for retirement dollars, besides your business,
I would be happy if we're able to sustain like, our current lifestyle, maybe have a little bit more fun.
Okay.
And then also to, don't be penny pinchers. I want to make sure we're great with our grandkids and,
Yeah.
I want to be the favorite grandpa, so I got to get some cool stuff.
Okay.
But,
so up to 220. Now, again, it's going to be more than that anyways, because it's inflation.
mhm.
But typically, again, a lot of your expenses, I'm looking besides debt, a lot of your expenses are just, gas, mortgage, possibly mortgage. Probably the goal is to have that paid off during that time. There's some kids' expenses, but entertainment, I mean, we didn't put a ton in here for that. You know what I'm saying? So I would say if you had a little bit more, that would be a good goal. But you had to tell me about how much more for just retirement dollars.
I'd say 10, 15,000. That'd be
It's not even scratching the surface of if I was truly living the life that I wanted, it's a couple $100,000 per month. What we'd actually need, I would say to truly be doing what we want to do, we would probably need $80,000 a month. To continue living the life that we're living. Now, if we were doing that, we'd need maybe 10 or 15,000 more than we have, right? To actually be getting out of debt and saving.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love this.
We're not living the life we want to live.
So I love this conversation. And so like, if we had, let's say 235 with inflation, it's going to be more that we have projected for your fin number at the ages that you want to have to live comfortably. And hopefully, again, all debt will be paid off, house will be paid off, all of those things. Okay. That's one conversation. But then the other end, you've mentioned a few times, I have this big dreams and I have this big lifestyle wants, right? And so with what you're making currently, combined even, it can't fund to get you to where you want in the 5 years or even 10 years, right? So you maybe need to also think about like expansion and growth of either the current business you have or another. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll go off for fin number, at least the numbers that you gave me. So let's talk about what you have currently saved. You said most of it's untaxable, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk about that. So what do you have right now currently emergency fund?
So we don't really have a specific emergency fund. We just kind of willy-nilly all of our money. There's really no plan there. I just have a 401k that I don't know, maybe has 30,000 in it.
30,000 in the 401k but that's not at your current your health supplement place, is it?
No, it's like some previous employer that,
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they're taking good care of it, right?
Yeah. Do you have any idea what it's doing, how it's doing?
No,
Do you know what interest rate you're earning on it?
no, I have no idea.
Okay. But so you're not contributing, it's with an old employer, you quit and you kind of just let it sit.
Yes.
Okay. Market's been okay this year. So hopefully you haven't had any losses this year. Do you know if you've had any losses since you left?
I don't.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely.
I don't even know how to access it, you know?
Okay. Do you know what company it's with?
I don't.
Okay. All right. We'll definitely look into that for you. Okay. So then if you don't have an emergency fund separate, you just have like do you have a checking and savings?
Yes.
Are those with the credit union or a bank?
Credit union.
Okay, good. And then how much do you typically keep in there?
About 15,000 usually.
In the savings or the checking?
Just in the checking.
15,000 in the checking.
So
And
that
is
we
that
can just spend and, you know,
right?
just
So
do
that's
the things we need
to
to do.
pay the bills. And you
Yeah.
don't have a separate business checking, Kason? Like nothing?
No. I say we don't have a separate business checking. We mainly just put it in our personal. And then yeah, we mainly just put it in personal
Yeah.
so we can just fluctuate it
Okay.
through
So
flow.
we get paid from the various sources of income, maybe a client from the coaching or maybe a bonus from the construction, and everything just goes into one checking.
Yep.
Yes.
When does it move to savings? Like, how is that? Is that just, hey, we have some extra, let's move it?
It doesn't really get moved.
Okay.
It just stays there.
Okay. So is there anything in the savings currently?
About like 3,000.
Is
3,000.
there?
Yeah,
Okay.
3,000.
Okay, so I'm assuming the checking, even though it's a credit union, is probably not earning much, like less than 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's call that zero. And then the savings at the credit union, sometimes that can be significant. Do you know what your savings interest rate is?
0.02
Really? In the savings?
in the savings. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes at the credit unions, you can get a better savings rate. I've seen like some people that have like a military family member and they get the military, the naval credit union or something, and then they get a better interest rate. So those are always good to look into. We can ask there for emergency funds to maybe earn a higher rate, but I can give you some ideas on that too. How about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, any of those things?
I play around a little bit, but I have lost more than I've made.
So do you have money in stocks currently?
Yes, it's in there and I'm just not touching it and letting it just praying that it rises. And that's to where I can pull it out and pay the taxes and just stop pulling my hair out every time it drops.
So the money that you're saving to pay the taxes, I know she has her own business, which there's a big tax bill typically at the end of the year if you're not paying that quarterly. Are you paying quarterly, Sarah, for your taxes?
No.
Okay.
Annually.
Well, I know the income's only, it's like 60, 70 for the coaching business, but as it increases, you're probably going to want to talk to your accountant about paying quarterly taxes instead of this big, scary, like surprise at the end of the year.
Sure.
But Kason, you're telling me that you're your savings for taxes at the end of the year into stocks?
No, no.
Oh.
That's just my play around money. Just
Okay, playment. Okay.
got a little extra and just said, oh, hey, there's a crypto or there's I don't know, a company that dropped down in stock and try to get into that. So
Okay.
that's where
And you're saying hasn't been great?
it's a kick in the stomach.
Mine's worse. I have about, I think, $150,000 in crypto that's worth about 5,000 right now, maybe, or 2,000 maybe.
You don't
I
want to
don't
know
look-
my opinion on
I
crypto,
don't
but
look
okay.
at it.
All right. So total, you have 5,000 in crypto, Sarah. And how much do you have, Kason, in stocks?
I have about current value or what I've invested.
Just current value.
Current value, it's probably about 2,000. I've invested 6.
That's no fun. Okay. Anything else? Bonds, mutual funds? Okay.
No.
So we have that old 401k that we're not sure how that's been doing. Anything else like IRAs, SEP IRAs, annuities? Nope.
Nope.
Any how about like Roth IRAs or tax-free stuff?
None of that. No.
Nope. I know that's something that you really wanted to to learn more about.
Yes.
Yeah, we just don't really know what to do.
Okay. That's okay. Is there any any other money that you are expecting, like an inheritance or anything like that?
When my dad passed away, he makes really good money, and I prefer not to count on that. But
Mhm.
he makes like $200,000. Yeah, 200,000 every 6 months, if not more. So that's where he has a pretty good little pot that he sits on, but I don't know. Not relying on it because not excited for it.
Yeah. Well, no, I asked because sometimes I had one client that their FIN number said they needed to save like $10,000 a month. Okay. Because they were very close to retirement, but they had an inheritance that they knew they were going to get. Everything was very laid out in the trust. Everything was and they knew that it would probably be in the next 2 years. So that because it was very, very detailed in the trust of exactly, that made a huge difference from actually saving about $10,000 a month to almost zero a month to meet that same need. Does it make sense? So those are big things that could possibly affect your numbers. So, okay. Now, do you guys have a will or a trust?
No. So with my dad's trust, I'm expecting maybe $1 million.
Okay.
When he passes away. And
we don't know, that's not anytime soon or anything, so we don't have to worry about that yet.
Like
I'm not going to
20
put
years,
those
not
into your
more.
numbers because it's not. Yeah. Okay. Having a will or trust, having that certainty as far as with the kids important to you? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, very.
All right. Anything else that's major that you think that you would want me to know and have included in here?
I don't think so.
I think sounds great.
Anything that you have like very specific questions on as far as what we've talked about?
If anything, is there ways to, I know with stocks and all this stuff, is there a way to understand more on how to invest in things like that, or?
For sure. So,
Okay.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back again, do my homework, come back in. This appointment is just us getting to know each other. And I'm so grateful that Mike introduced us and that we're going to be able to kind of teach you. And I love the mindset that you have because that's the same as me. I want to teach you so that you can understand this stuff and you can teach your kids and change your family's legacy. And we'll, keep it real simple. But today's just kind of getting to know each other, kind of figuring out what are your goals, what are your dreams. When we get back together, that's my clients love that next appointment because that's peer education and we keep it real simple, but we go through kind of all of these goals that you have and exactly how to get there. Does that make sense? But I'm going to give you some homework. Okay. So a couple of things. One is that Mutual of Omaha, the whole life. Do you have any statements on that?
Yes, I do. I even have
Okay.
the file that's just in my file that has all the information on it. So I can get everything I need for that.
Okay. I'm gonna just add this up really quick because I don't know if I added your truck into this expenses as I was going through this. So I'm gonna add it up one more time for you just to double check to make sure this sounds right to you.
No, we need to add in my car payment too.
Oh yeah, I don't have a car payment for you on here.
Yeah, I'm $375.
Okay.
And then what, 600? 600.
Yeah, and then another 100 a month for insurance.
Okay, hold on. 51. Sorry, 5125. Adding your debt in here. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I did something wrong. 5125 is your basic, expenses plus the student loan plus the credit cards plus the car was what?
375.
Gosh darn it. Okay, hold on. I think I got it all. 5125. So your expenses $65.50 a month. Does that sound right to you?
That sounds about
Sounds
right.
pretty dang close.
And then 4,800 a month for Kaysen's average monthly take home. Is that right?
Yeah.
And about 4,400 for yours. Is that right? Ish?
Yeah.
And that's without the better months that Kaysen has. So about
Yes.
9,200 a month take home.
That sounds about right.
Sure.
Yeah.
9,200 a month take home, 65.50 expenses. And so there's a big discrepancy there. For not having a ton going into savings every month.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
probably just spend that.
We spend that or find
If it's
somewhere.
there, we'll find somewhere to put it, an extra trip or
Yeah.
it's
So your
just not
discretion-
it's just not in the savings, but the extra just
Well,
if
it's
it's
discretionary
extra.
about 2,700 a month, right? But then we
Yeah.
have Christmas presents, and then we have, all the stuff that comes up. But so I'm going to give you some homework. Okay, a couple things. So take some notes. One is because the budget's kind of what do you call it, willy-nilly?
Willy-nilly.
The budget's willy-nilly. What would be good is I don't know if you guys use a check like a bank card or credit card or things like that to pay your bills. It'd be good to go back through like 3 months at least of like your debit card or your bank statements. Do you tend to carry a lot of cash and pay things in cash, or do you tend to use like a debit card?
We always use a debit card.
Perfect. Okay, so go back like at least 3 months. And then kind of just do what I did with you of kind of like, where's this going? It's going to, here's the mortgage and here's the internet. And oh my gosh, I have this. I had one client that forgot that he spent $1,000 a month on gaming. This was an adult man, but he was like video game stuff, right? And
That sounds like me before I met Sarah.
Maybe an addiction, a habit. I don't know what you want to call that, but we were able to find some money there with that. But kind of just go back 3 months and then maybe create a little budget to figure out maybe there's something I forgot to tell Jamie. Okay. And that will also, I don't know, it just will help. It helps clients figure out more discipline, because what we're going to do here is we're going to take you from just like willy-nilly to being more organized saver, learning to pay yourself first, then to become an investor building wealth, which is your ultimate goal. Okay. So right now we're going to work on the $2,700 a month discretionary. So the budgeting, kind of just go through that a little bit, kind of narrow that down, kind of see where there's, extra money going out. Then, do you think you can send me those statements today on the Mutual of Omaha?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. The credit union term, Sarah, if you just call the credit union, or maybe you have an online way to check, I need to know exactly how much the face amount is and how much you're paying a month and how long that term is. And if you could just screenshot a statement on that too, that would be awesome. Okay.
Okay.
So statements on both of those insurance policies. Okay. And then that form, okay, we got to do some digging on that. Okay. And so you may have to go calling your former employer. You may have to kind of dig into finding it online, but I just need to know what that is. It's probably just sitting in a, old 401k, an IRA. It could have moved into an IRA. How much exactly you thought you had 30, how much do we have in there? And then if you can get me all the statements, or at least the information of what it's in, then I can do some digging, figure out what has it been doing. I'll just tell you right now, more than likely it has zero protection on it from downturns in the market. If the market goes up and down, it's going to be subject to loss. Okay. And we don't know how it's invested. So it could be invested in the company's stock for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm
Makes
going to have
sense.
to do a lot of research for you on that. Okay. All right. Now the debt. So we have the Visa number 1, Visa number 2, the Spirit Airline, the Discover, and the Best Buy. All right. Now, I want to help you come up with a plan to pay that debt down faster so that more money can be going into your savings, right? The wealth accumulation, your goal. So, these interest rates, your Visa's at 16, you have another Visa at 10, the Spirit Airlines way up there at 20, Discover at 27, and Best Buy at 0. The Best Buy, I already kind of told you what my suggestion is on that, at least to be educated on that. All right. The other credit cards, it seems like I have some money. This seems like a good dollar amount, 250,000. That's comfortable. I'm throwing it there. But there is a better way. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever heard of like debt snowballing or debt avalanching. Sometimes it's called. Okay. So what I want you to do, again, a little bit of homework, is to verify each of those cards. Kind of like just do what I did. Credit card number 1, Visa, credit card number 2, Spirit, and confirm, is it 16%? Have you ever made any late payments on any of these?
No.
Okay, so that's good. Sometimes when you make late payments, it shoots your interest rates through the roof and you don't even know it. Okay, but find out, is it 16, right? This is just a quick phone call, and then let's say, again, credit card number 1, 16%. My balance, you said, is 15. Confirm the exact dollar amount. Okay. And then what is your minimum payment? Sometimes you can just look on your statements and find this stuff. Okay. Your minimum payment. But then the other one that I didn't ask you is, what's your high credit limit? Okay. So for example, let's say on that Visa number 2 that only has 9,000 on it, it's only at 10%. And let's say, your high credit limit is $25,000. You could probably move that 27% Discover card over to that 10% Visa. Okay. So the idea, and tell me if you don't follow me, the idea is to take whatever's at the highest interest rate and move it down, if possible, closer to 0%, to the lower interest rates. So that's your homework first. Finding out if there is room on some of these. And you may call the first Visa at 16%, and they say, yeah, it's at 16%, but we have a special offer at 0% for a year if you do a balance transfer. Ask about these things, because if they'll move over some of the higher interest rate for you at 0%, we can get the higher interest rate stuff down. And now that same $250 that you're putting towards that, it'll get it paid down faster. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, totally.
But I'll help you come up with the plan. But I first need to know the minimums, the high credit limit. So the idea would be to get as much moved down to lower interest rates as possible. And then all this money that you're putting towards your credit card. So you have 250, 252. Let's see. I'll show you right now. 250 on 3 cards, correct? 250 on the visas and the Spirit. And then you have a 200 on Discover and 100. So it's another 300. Okay. So you're spending about 1,050 a month in credit cards. Okay. So that's how much you're allocating with no extra money a month, with no extra money, just the same 1,050. My suggestion would be we get it down to the lowest interest rate first. I'll have to do homework on that. Take you a little bit of time. We can probably have that done by the next time we get together. So of the 1,050, once we have it moved down to the lowest interest rate, what I'm going to have you do is pay minimums on everything. Maybe not the Best Buy. The Best Buy we're going to have a separate plan for, maybe, right? But we'll pay minimums on everything. And then the balance after the minimums of the 1,050, the $1,000.50, a month, it'll pay towards the highest interest rate card. So right now that would be Discover. So instead of $200 going toward Discover, maybe $800 going towards Discover or whatever, right? And then we're hammering down that Discover card. Once that's paid off, now that 800 moves to the next highest interest rate card, and then to the next highest interest rate card, and then to the next. Does that make sense? Until you are paying 1,050 on one card. We may take, we'll see, of your 2,700 discretionary, we may take some of that and throw it to some debt too to get that paid off faster. But I know your main goal is wealth building and retirement. So now, a couple things. When we talked, you said your main goal was protection, making sure that the kids are taken care of and the wife's taken care of if something were to happen to you as a breadwinner, right? Both of you are bringing a good amount of money into the house. So protection on both of you. I will tell you that what you have with if that is accidental death and disability, it's not even really in real insurance. I believe it's probably more than that. I believe it's probably a whole life policy for $100,000 with some accidental death. If it truly is just accidental death, how you understand that is if you don't die in the accident, there's not a payout. You have to be dismembered or die in the accident for it to mean anything. So you could get in a car accident, terrible life-threatening car accident, and you get rushed to the hospital in the ambulance. You didn't die in the accident, but you have a heart attack on the way in the ambulance. It doesn't pay out, Casey. So that's why these become so cheap. Not cheap, but inexpensive. The premiums are lower. Okay. The credit union term, Sarah, it's just term. More than likely it's 20 years or 30 years. And I'll just give you an idea. Take a guess, you guys, what percentage of term insurance actually pays out? If you die with term insurance, what do you think is the percentage of term insurance actually someone getting money from that policy?
From my understanding, we always live a lot longer than the term, so maybe 15%, I would say 10%.
Yeah, so a lot of people, it's a good guess. It's 1%.
Wow.
1%. So the $10 that you're paying towards that 25,000, which is like, let's say something happened to you, Sarah, 25,000 isn't even half of 1 year's salary to support your babies. Does that make sense? And more than likely, it will never pay out anyways, because we're going to knock on wood that you're going to live a nice long life and you're not going to die in the next 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and we'll, on our next appointment, we'll kind of go through what is the right amount of coverage and get you the least amount of money for the right amount of coverage. And again, getting as much money as possible going towards that savings and wealth accumulation. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. One last question. So you have 2,700 discretionary. Again, we'll go through the budget and narrow that down. But saving zero right now, besides the stock stuff that you're playing with, right? But saving zero, if I were to tell you to save the whole $2,700, it would be way too hard of an adjustment in your budget. Okay. So with the goal that you have, pretty aggressive goal of retiring at 50 and 65 for you, Kaysen, with at least 235,000, which is on the very low end of what you really, really, really want. How much of the 2,700 do you want to start allocating towards your wealth building, towards your savings? Like how much do you want me to start to work with when I'm doing these numbers?
I would say starting off just so we can adjust, and I'd like to increase it later, but like 500 a month, and then increase it to where we can actually sustain, so it's not too
Yeah.
much of a shock.
It's kind of like working out. Like when you first start working out, right? It's like, I don't want to do this. This is no fun. This is painful. You don't see the results, but then once you start to see the results, you like look like the way you look in the mirror, right? And you're like, hey, I want to do more, right? But it's also gets more comfortable and you get more of a control on your budget instead of willy-nilly or whatever, right? Okay, so $500 a month, that's towards your wealth accumulation. Now, what about towards like, you want to throw more money than you already are towards debt and emergency fund and like protection and those things?
Yeah, I think we need to.
It's better to start now than later, that's for sure.
Okay, so maybe like a couple $100 there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so maybe $200 to $300 towards emergency fund debt, but we're gonna really take what you're already spending towards debt and just reallocate it to make it better. Does that sound
Okay.
good?
Yeah,
Sounds
Okay,
great.
great. Awesome. So any other things that you have concerned with or anything you want me to know before I kind of go to work on this? Okay,
No.
let me give you the email. If you can send today the statements and give me an update on the research of the 401k. Okay. But my email, then this is whenever I mean, you're welcome to call me anytime or even, reach out. And then, Mike also has my personal email, but really for your client stuff, I want it to be an encrypted email. It's very protected if it has any statements or, stuff like that. And that's jamie.villalobos@TFA Connect, stands for Transamerica Financial Advisors. So Jamie, JAIME .Villalobos, it's a hard one, VILLALOVOS @TFAconnect.com. Okay, so go ahead and send me those statements. When you send them today, if you could just shoot me a text that says, hey, I sent that stuff, because sometimes, because it is that encrypted email, our compliance department doesn't push stuff through as fast. So if you tell me, then my staff can go through and just make sure it comes through all the way, and I'll get to work on it right away for you. Okay. So next question, I guess probably the most important question. Again, this appointment is just us getting to know each other. The next appointment, that's when you're going to love it. We're going to go deep into how things will work out there. Like what you said earlier of like, I want to put my money and make it grow, right? Like what's the best place to do that? So when is a good time for us to get back together on a Zoom? Let's see, today is Thursday. What's your schedule look like? Maybe on Friday or Saturday? Monday, maybe at the latest?
Mondays
So you
are
can
the
get
best
all
for me.
those
So
statements and everything by then?
weekends would be better, but yeah, we can make sure we put a rush on it.
Okay, so Saturday, what do you have going on Saturday? Stuff with the kids? Would morning or afternoon be better?
I would say afternoon.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon's great.
Okay, so I have something from 11 to about 1. I have an open time between 1 and 3 Central. Would that work?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
So 1 o'clock Central is noon for you. You're in Mountain Time, right? Does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
So I will shoot you a Zoom link. Shoot me a text today once you sent the statements over. And if you can, again, if you don't get real deep on the debt stuff in this amount of time, that's okay. But, sorry to put more on your plate. I know you have 3 kids and a lot going on. So if you don't get too deep in that, that's okay. But just, start off with what you can. And then we'll get into some good stuff next time when we get together. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
I'm excited.
All right. Awesome. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Honestly, like today was really more about Mike getting, trained, but also getting his business off the ground. Now that you kind of see what he's doing, you'll see what, you see why he's so excited. So maybe be thinking of people that that may need this same type of education, or honestly, Mike's in our broker training program. So if there's people that that are looking for maybe a side business or to make more money, or people that that are good with people, those would be great referrals for him too. And we can talk about that next time if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So I will see you then Saturday at 1.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. Nice to meet you guys. All right. Okay. All right, Neil, you can kind of take them down. So that was, I wanted to go through very detailed, all of the aspects of the F&A. And we really did pretty much every part of the FNA. All right. So that you can see that. Most important, I'm getting statements. Most important, I'm getting statements. That's the most important thing. She had no idea about that 401k. If there was statement, I already know I'm going to do an IUL on these guys. So it was a health share thing, a Mutual of Omaha thing, and a credit union thing. I'm going to ask for those statements to be turned in. If it was a whole life, like real policy or a IUL or a VUL, I would have asked, do you have these statements now? So that I could have made a screenshot so that I could have started working on that right away. But I already know kind of, I don't really need that. I can get those statements, but I need as many, before we get back together on Saturday, I need those statements. So do you see how I asked her, can you send these to me today and text me that you sent them? So, because it is true on the TFA email, sometimes compliance will block your stuff. And so they could have sent it, but we didn't know it got here. So Grace has to go in and have them release that stuff, or my staff has to have them release that stuff. Okay. Any questions in the chat on any of